Good morning. Can you hear me? It's a good thing I have 15 minutes because I only have about 500 slides. I'd like to thank the organizers for inviting me to talk about organic agriculture and the production and management of organic farming. The problem with organic farming is that we have two major obstacles: nutrition and pest management. As we all know, the form of organic farming is that relies on crop rotation, green manure, compost, biological pest control, and mechanical cultivation. Next. So, how do we overcome these two or three main obstacles that are nutrition and pest management when we can't use synthetic fertilizers and we can't use synthetic pesticides and we can't use genetically modified organisms? Well, one of the solutions that we will present today is biological soil amendments. These biological soil amendments are classified as organic. But I'd like for you to keep in mind that first, they're useful. First, they serve a purpose. And second, they are organic. So these can be used in organic farming, but they can also be used in conventional farming. Some of the factors influencing productivity in conventional and in organic farming are plant stressors, soil stressors, pathogens, pests, and nutrient management. Specifically in organic farming, the nutrient management and pests are difficult for production because our hands are tied behind our back since we can't use synthetic fertilizers or synthetic pesticides. Next slide. Some examples of plant stressors: soil salinity, soil acidity, fluctuations in temperature, transplanting, that's when you take from the nursery the seed or the budwood and take it out into the extension and plant it, right? Inadequate irrigation, sometimes we have a little too much water, sometimes we have a little not enough water, or sometimes we have flooding. In the case of flooding, the problems of overdosage is more difficult or it's not feasible to recuperate a plant, but with a little too much water or a little scarcity water, we can overcome this with soil amendments. Soil stressors. Soil stressors include the burn down, either by flame or by chemicals. This is especially true in short cycle crops where we don't incorporate the thatch or the organic waste into the soil. We burn it instead of using it. This is a problem because we've already paid for all the fertilizers and all the ingredients from the last campaign or the last planting, but instead of incorporating it into the soil, we're wasting it, we're burning it. Another soil stressor is the chemical residue, which accumulates over time from the use of synthetic pesticides, synthetic fertilizers, and different conventional chemicals. Also, erosion and the removal of topsoil eliminates beneficial bacteria as well as beneficial organic material. And then there's the lack of organic material in general in certain loamy soils or salty or sandy soils or soils with high clay content don't have as much organic material as necessary for a good ionic interchange between the soil and the roots. Next slide, please. Pest management. We have nematodes, we have insects, we have different animals that attack our crops. And then within pathogens, we have pathogenic fungi, we have pathogenic bacteria. Examples are Rhizoctonia, Verticillium, Sclerotonia, and multiple foliar problems like Mycospirella apigiensis, Oidium, Botrytis. All these problems affect different types of crops. Next slide, please. And then we come to the big problem for organic agriculture and farming is nutrition management. Specifically in organic crops, we have the problem that we can't use urea. Since urea is synthetic, it's made out of gas, it doesn't qualify for use in organic farming. So what do we do? Because urea is a big part of the menu for feeding a plant. But we'll get to that in a minute. In addition, we have problems like unprocessed micronutrients in the soil or nutrients that are bound to the soil that the plant root can't absorb them. Another problem that we have is the waste from burn down, right? We don't incorporate that into the soil. Notice that burn down, I put it on two lists. The first list as a stressor, as well as a problem in the nutritional list. And burn down once again refers to the chemical or flame burn down of organic material. Then we have manure and compost and other sources of nutrients, which are part of the production management for organic crops. And then we have the lack of absorption of nitrogen. Nitrogen exudates, which is when it goes to an area too deep for the roots to reach in the soil. Nitrogen can also volatilize, which is practically or similar to evaporation. And nitrogen can denitrify, which is when bacteria from the soil can cause it to break apart and leave the soil. Next slide, please. So, custom biologicals has an answer to many of these problems, if not all of them. And that's what I'm here to talk to you today about. Next slide. Custom Biologicals is a company that was created in 1992 in Florida, United States of America. It's a biotech company. We cultivate bacteria, safe bacteria. None of it is pathogenic, none of the bacteria chosen are opportunistic, and none of them are modified genetically. They're all natural bacteria that are occurring in the soil, and they can be found in your soil. What our technology does is multiply them into high amounts so they can be taken off of a shelf and used whenever you want to use them. This is very different to growing them on rice or trying to do them locally because of the high content and because they are preserved in spore form, thus by being able to use them whenever you want to use them, as opposed to the rice form that you have to use within a few days of creating them, because that population starts to go down. Next slide, please. Custom Biologicals also produces, in addition to agricultural products, consumer products for wastewater treatment, septic tanks, grease traps, for trash control. They also produce odor control products, hazardous waste cleanup. So if there are chemicals that are spilled, we have bacteria that would eat those chemicals, and once that chemical is gone, the bacteria runs out of food and it dies. And then a big segment is bioremediation, oil spills and that sort of stuff. Next slide, please. Okay, the organisms that we use, like we said a moment ago, are non-pathogenic. They're type 1, classified by the ATCC, which is the American Type Culture Collection. This is a laboratory that is semi-governmental that classifies and decides what bacteria are safe and which ones aren't. So we take from their library of microorganisms that are tested throughout the whole world by different universities and schools. We choose the safe ones and find applications for them in agriculture and wastewater treatment and line. Next slide, please. Our agriculture products are OMRI listed. OMRI is the Organic Materials Review Institute. This is an institution in the United States that decides what products can be classified as organic and which ones are not. Next slide, please. Okay, so on to what the biological soil amendments can do for organic farming. Biological soil amendments can reduce the plant stressors that we talked about. They can also reduce the soil stressors that we talked about a moment ago. And they can also control certain pathogens, and they can help with certain pest management. It can also increase the nutrient absorption from the soils, as well as increase the amount of nitrogen in those soils. We use three different three different types of microorganisms for our technology. The first is the genus Bacillus, then is the genus Trichoderma, and the genus Penibacillus. Talking about the Trichoderma fungi, we have a product called Custom GP. Custom GP will help your soils and will also help to reduce the stress of transplanting. So